So, hello and welcome to the second part of my video. The first part was where I talked through some websites and some research and kind of where computer science was at. The second part is where I'm actually going to talk about what I've discovered and give you some examples. So in the presentation, you'll notice that there's a slide called websites looked at. I'm going to look in two parts really. The first part is looking at these four that are specific computer science resources. Then the third little video is going to be looking at the other two examples of the Flatwall project and the Noble project. All of these are hyperlinked, so you should just be able to click through them. The first video is called Advanced ICT. Bizarrely, if you click on the link, it looks like this. So it's called advancedict.info, but it's actually called Computing and ICT in a nutshell. Things to note, which is good, is that it's got a nice Creative Commons license, which means it's really OER friendly, and it's quite a generous one in terms of what it lets you do. So you can share, you can adapt, so crucially, you can do what you want with it. And as long as you say that the owner has the rights to, or the appropriate credit, then you are absolutely fine. So in terms of Key Stage 4 ICT, it's an interesting one. The website's pretty easy to use. There's nothing that's specific to Key Stage 4 ICT in the way it's laid out, but you've got a teaching area. You can see there's computing in general on the left-hand side. That brings up some information about Key Stage 3, and it has lots and lots of hyperlinks to files for the different sections that you have to teach. For example, algorithms, brings up a PowerPoint that will then give you a simple overview that you can adapt for your teaching purposes. So there we go, algorithms, and it talks about objectives, what they are, not sort of fancy algorithms, but very functional, and again, nice and sort of correct in terms of the principles, and it allows you to get a good understanding as to what you need to do. All of these, again, can be completely adaptable to your own needs, which is amazing. And it goes all the way through as well. The other thing that I really like about this and learning is that the author includes lots of extra references to kind of theoretical underpinnings of how we learn, etc., which is really good to see that they're linking theory and pedagogy together. What's really good, I think what makes this website excellent, is that it's, as I say, it's Creative Commons, but also is the fact that you get these interactive elements here. So the author has lots of things that you can play with, basically. So if you look at binary, you can actually click on these numbers here and see the impact of binary here. So in terms of student learning, you can send them to this page and they can then click away. And if you say how to work out what 31 is, they can do that or whatever, but it's just a practical example. Some of the websites don't offer those features. And you've got lots of other little programs as well that always work. So that and that is that, you know. So really nice to see. The author as well, I should just mention that I actually contacted him and said that I like the website. You basically imply that you want teachers to use it. Are you willing to adapt it and actually flag up the fact that there is a Creative Commons license on it? And he said, brilliant, I will do. And then about a day later, he came back and said, I've added this page on Creative Commons. I'm all for it, which is really good to see that he was so willing to share his resource. And there we go, there's the license. Other things as well is if you're a general computer science teacher, useful things on general word processing and so on. Lots of useful things on programming. I think the author specializes in Python, so it's got good theory here that you can then apply into your work there. And just in general, it's a really easy to use site. I know lots of people in England use it. I think it's one of the, is it the second most hit site for computer science issues? I think, I may be wrong. So it's well used and it's really transparent. There's no costs, no challenges like that. But that's just a good example of how it works. Second one I was going to look at briefly is the Cambridge Computing MOOC. Now for this one, it's actually behind a file, a subscription. So it looks something like this when you log on. I'm using a very old password that still works, but it does let you log in. And it's a MOOC, and it's basically linked to the spec for OCR relating to their GCSE. So you can either do GCSE computing, and you can see started in 2010, last exam in 2017, so that's now a redundant course, or the new one. And it's a decentish MOOC. I don't quite know why that's there on the first page. It says it's a test, so there's a question as to why it's there, but it's straightforward. It links bang on with the computer science theory, but you do need to be teaching the OCR stroke Cambridge spec in order to get a password to use this. But you'll see lots of stuff, quite theoretical. So you've got your theory there, all broken down. You've got videos that will talk through this man in his coat talking through the principles. And again, nice that you got the transcript if you are visually impaired or you want to take the notes away and read at a leisure, and it's a pleasant enough sheet to look at. There are some elements of interactivity. There are some worksheets to do that aren't self-assessing, so you have to download them, print them, and I think the teacher needs to mark them. But again, analog digital, for example, going through those. And again, usefully, there are teachers' notes. So if you need to be upskilled, it's quite a beautiful place to go to because they do have relatively good teachers' notes, even exemplar lesson plans, and some useful descriptions to what things are. Now, obviously, in the UK, we are dealing with upskilling staff to quite a high level where they don't necessarily have that computer science background. So it's good to see that all of these materials are available. And again, the worksheets and answers are provided there if you're not sure. So that goes on like that. That's kind of pretty much the entire spec for the GCSE. Useful things around the exam as well. It is kind of a take it or leave it, really. There's bits you can just drop into, bits that you can probably drill down and reuse. Now, I don't particularly like this because it's not really OER, so I'm just using it just to show the broadness of it. There's nothing about OER about it in that they retain the copyright for it. You're not really supposed to circulate it outside of your license, which you would normally buy for the school. But that's just showing you it. So there's a couple of videos there. I think these are, oh, here's one that I find interesting. So it's a little mock test. What's the name given to one's electrical items? I'm going to call them trash. Don't know if that's the right answer. Check it. No. Get the solution. What's the answer? E-waste. Check it. I've got it right. So I can basically, if I was being a lazy student, I could just go through, and I'm not even going to check with the answers here. True, true, true. Are they right? No. False. Yeah, false. Check it. Done it. So I've not even read them, but according to that, I've got the marks on it. So that's something we need to be careful about. Possibly they could use a bit more interactivity to self-mark and ultimately link to an assessment sheet or something like that. But it's good enough. It's functional. A lot of thought has gone into it, and I think it's great that OCR are actually willing to support like that, because there's a couple of areas where they could potentially say, I'm not interested, whatever. We're not going to resource, it's up to you, but they're actually putting some resources together. Third one. This is another interesting one, GCSE Computer Science Wikibooks, that looks something like this. So Wikibooks are open source books. They are of a interesting standard. They're all open, so anybody can edit them, and you'll see the computing is quite high on the list. There's an awful lot of high level things, i.e. a degree, specific Haskell's programming language, Blender is creating 3D drawings and rendering, LaTeX is how you format documents, especially sort of scientific and maths ones. Knoppix is I think it's a computer programming. Yeah, there we go. It's a Linux format. Write yourself a schedule in 48 hours. However, the books we're actually looking at are going to be the computer science ones. And again, the challenge you're going to have is it's open source. There's no real control over it. And the last reviewed version was on 21st of February 2019. And so someone's made some amendments yesterday because it's the 22nd today. There's the spec broken down. You'll see that these binary systems is covered by AQA, CIE, Ed, and OCR, EdXL. And these are the different sections that they relate to. Then you can go through. So if you want to look at logic, that's all it says really about gates and how they work on logic tables. There's nothing particularly dynamic about it. I think where they would really benefit would be doing something around binary, for example, here, where they're talking about how it works. but there's actually no way of being interactive. All you can do, as you've seen there by mistake, is you can click on the picture and it's just a static image. It'll be a lot better if they link something from Teach ICT, Advanced ICT, sorry, where you had an interactive element like that, because I think having that, where you can actually click and see, is a lot more engaging than just having these stats there as static pictures. It is free. The great thing is that, you know, it's completely open source, so you can do what you want. You've probably seen on the left-hand side, it says if you want, you can create a collection. So if you want to, you can go in and choose the sections of work that you want. Say, I'd like to add this, add this, add this. Then you can download it as a PDF, although it's not working currently. And so in theory, you could make your own textbook for your students by being selective on what you want and choosing the relevant parts into a PDF, or you can print them. So that would be good if it works, but it does rely heavily on the fact that you need the information correct and available straight away. Finally, I am going to be looking at the Computing Cafe, which is probably most interesting in some ways because it's the one I hadn't heard of before. I came across it through doing some discussions on a Facebook group where I was asking people what examples of OER they had. And the chap who wrote it came up and said, what about me? What about this site? It's brilliant. So the Computing Cafe, the.computing.cafe, and I'll go to the home page. Really colourful, very user-friendly, and it breaks it down into the different key stages. So you've got key stage 4 for GCSEs, and then it goes through all the specs and also all of the course structure. So this is how the person teaches it over 3 years. And basically, you could work independently at home on this. He mentioned that they're using Plickers at times, which is an assessment tool, quizzes and assessments to do all this. But it's pretty good. Computer systems, this is kind of like a how do we work through our presentation. So you've got a little presentation here. One limitation is that this is all in Google Slides, and so I can look at these, but I can't actually download or amend them, although the resources are CC, and I'll show you those. But there are questions there. What are these? What are the categories? And at that point, you're supposed to go away and create and write up stuff. So different activities there. Pretty good as a starting point, if I'm honest. It's a shame that you can't actually get to them, but you can only sort of read only them effectively. It goes on, revision in your books, should you need them, and it tells you what you need to do and when. Good principles of marking and making notes, checkpoints to check you know what you're doing, and it's kind of like that all the way through. So in fact, it's a pretty good way of doing this, talking about your heads and footers. So if you were poorly or you did need a set of resources, this would be a really good place to go to, as it really is quite simple in what you need to do, but it does work nicely. And again, there's lots of principles there, FAQs at the bottom and so on. You'll also notice as well on the home page that goes well above just Key Stage 4. It talks about the different things you need to do if you want to learn how to program, if you need some extra support and so on, then you can do that. And there's a whole load of links at the bottom now. Where does it say CC? So there's the license for Creative Commons. It's pretty generous in what it allows you to do. Again, it's the usual thing. Don't sell it on as your own. Don't make money out of it, but do credit the author. And it is a really strong site. Key Stage 3 is similar all the way through. So this is probably a bit of a hidden gem. I think it would be much better used if people were more aware of it. I saw a really nice lesson as well, some really nice interactive elements as well. Does that work? No, it's just a static image. It was all to do with, here we go. So there's an integrated PowerPoint that in theory, you could get a student to go through at their own time and pace, or just to reinforce learning at home. But it goes on like that, lots of worked examples, not that interactive in the sense of the other website of Advanced ICT, but it certainly has a lot doing it. Painting pictures was a nice one, actually. That's what the one I was referring to. You can, where is it now? Lots of ways of doing it, lots of interactive things. Somewhere in here, there's a nice little Word Excel spreadsheet that you can colour in. You've seen the activities before, but all of these resources are put here that you can work through as well. So this is a nice one, and in fact, I'd say that one and the Advanced ICT are by far the two best ones that I have found. It's great that they're both Creative Commons because it allows you to be creative and expressive in how you use the resources. And I hope you have found this brief overview of the 4 sites helpful. I'll come back in a few minutes and we'll look at the other 2 non-computer science sites to give you an idea as to how other sites look like. Thank you very much.